All right. How's everybody doing tonight? I thought I'd get on here. I don't know why the screen is kind of hazy. May take a minute to clean that off. My name is 12 Gauge, and I am your host. And this is 12 Gauge Investigative. I hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday and that you are enjoying and living your best life. Hello, women in the chat. Thank you for being here. Missy Moo and Rondi, thank you for being here. As the title says, Kaylee's dad speaking to Nancy Grace. So why don't we get into it? One thing I got to say about individuals coming into the chat, we agree to disagree in here, and we have a pretty chill chat. So keep it classy. So if you come in here, it's okay to chat. It's okay to speak your opinions. It's okay for you to state your opinion on the case. Just don't attack anybody in the process. Let people be where they're going to be. And that's all I got to say about that. So let's listen to this Nancy Grace interview. And I know that some of you are not Nancy Grace fans, and that's understandable. But still, sometimes she has the best dirt on the street, regardless of how you feel about her. So, where am I? Oh, there I am. Well, let's go ahead and see what you got to say.
Breaking news tonight, the Brian Koberger trial. Joining us tonight, Kaylee Gonsalves's father is with us live. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
My niece called, and she was very frantic, and she was asking me if I had talked to Kaylee. Kaylee's phone goes directly to voicemail. Start playing Maddie. Nobody's answering. It's ringing. So we turn on the TV and we see live news coverage at Kaylee's house, 122 King Road. Kaylee and Maddie are both dead. A quadruple homicide.
News came in that the police are responding to a call of someone found unconscious. That's the call that originally came in, and then they responded, and then they found the 4 additional bodies, the 4 bodies of these students inside the home. It was originally a call not pertaining to 4 dead bodies, but that's what they found when they entered the home. It was shocking news to hear, especially coming from just the most quiet town.
You were just hearing investigative reporter Ava Wainhouse. At the very beginning, we didn't even understand what had happened. At the beginning, when police were called to the King Road address, no one knew what was to unfold. As the news unfolded, it got worse and worse and worse. And that is for us on the outside looking in. Joining me tonight is a very special guest, Steve Gonsalves. This is Kaylee Gonsalves's father. Steve, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate you supporting these kids.
I really don't even know how to take that, because I don't know who in the world could not support you and your family and Kaylee and the other children. There are children.
But we do know a lot of people that don't support them. We know a lot of people that always have something negative or bad to say about them. And, that's their prerogative. But, there's some of us that do have a sense of empathy.
That were killed that night. I just want you to know before we start that you and your wife and your family are the objects of so many prayers. I know it's hard for a lot of people that have never suffered as a crime victim to identify or to relate to what you're going through. But I know from firsthand experience that it's horrible and that it never goes away. And I look at you as you speak to the press, as you go about your life, and I've got to tell you, I am in so much awe and admiration about how you continue forward, how you put one foot in front of the other, and you get up every day and you keep going and you keep fighting. You were mentioning earlier how people ask you, hey, how did it turn out? What do you mean by that, Steve?
We have a Facebook page, so we've garnered attention from other countries, and I guess maybe from those countries, a perspective of 2 years, they assume it's over. They assume that we're done. So they'll chime in, they'll comment, they'll send us messages and ask us how did it turn out? You know, people have their own lives, they're running around doing their own things, and then they catch back up. They're like, oh yeah, what happened there in America? And they reach out to us directly because we've opened up those lines of communication, and we have to tell them it hasn't even started. We have not even got to a schedule yet.
You know, when you say it hasn't even started, I've got to tell you, going through the trial is going to be pure hell, and you know that, in addition to what you've already been through. I wonder how you and your family feel as you see other cases hit the headline and take away focus from what you know to be the most important case there is. I remember when my fiance was murdered, I felt like I had stepped off the world. And I look back, and amazingly, the world was still spinning. People were still going to work. People were still going out to nightclubs and movies and out to dinner. And I think it was just too much for me to take in because my world had stopped. I couldn't hear music. I couldn't even hear the clocks ticking in the house. It just, no TV, nothing. Everything had to stop. And I've been wondering how you deal with the fact that seemingly the world is marching on.
Yeah. You're reminded of that every day you wake up and you need to get up and go to work, and you have all these pressing issues. So yeah, it's part of the reason why we're fighting is to make sure that my daughter's case is going to get the right people and the right attention, and then, you know, the right resolution. So you think it's a guarantee in America, but I think those times have changed. I think you really have to come up and you have to say something and you have to get people involved. And I've heard that from other people who have cases that were never solved, or they wish they could have gone back and picked up that phone or opened up that door where there was people, you know, knocking on their doors trying to get the inside story. So I knew with my child, there wasn't anything I wouldn't have done to, you know, make sure that I was talking and getting that information out and getting people's attention, that we can't allow people to go to school, go to college, and be killed in their sleep from some outsider. You know, there's terrible things going on, but a complete stranger, you know, hunting your child down and getting them while they're sleeping is just you can't get that through your head that that's even possible.
Mr. Gonsalves, what you just said has been my theory from about day 3, hunting them down, because people always ask, of course, as you know now, the state doesn't have to prove a motive, but practically speaking, a jury will want to know a motive. And I believe with all of my heart, from what we know now, and that may change as the trial progresses, that the victims were hunted down. There is no motive that we can understand, normal people can understand. I think you're right, Mr. Gonsalves. I think they were hunted and stalked and watched. Now, I know the state came out in court and said there is no evidence of stalking. And I take that to mean, in the legal sense, like sending Kelly emails or letters or leaving things at her doorstep, just showing up at her work, trying to date her. I don't think it's stalking in that sense, the way we normally think of it. I think it was more, as you said, hunting.
And she makes a good point right there. And I know a lot of you don't like her. A lot of you don't like what she said, but she's been doing this for a long time. And, there has to be a little bit of credence on her part. Like he just said, they were hunted down. And that makes a lot of sense, that word, hunted. No matter what you believe about him or what you think about him or his family business or, his other daughter or what happened the night or the morning of, you weren't there. None of us were there. So we can't really, we can give our opinion, we can give our thoughts, but how would you react if you got news like that? Would you be sane of mind and heart to be able to process everything that's going on? There's been a lot of people that have put different words and spinning of words and manipulating words about the day after the murders and what was said to these individuals and what they did. Where in reality, unless you were there, you don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. I'm trying to be careful how I describe some of the things that is out there, but yeah, this is a criminologist. This is somebody who spent, probably a century studying law and getting the ins and outs. This person knows there cannot be a direct connection, an easy direct connection. That's how everyone gets caught. So you got to reverse engineer it back to what he was doing and the steps he was taking. I think this will go all the way back to his Pennsylvania home. In his actual room, you're going to find out that he planned this murder from that actual location, and he left Pennsylvania with a thought and a motivation to go out and kill someone.
Steve, you are bringing up a lot of evidentiary implications with what you just said. I think what you're saying is entirely possible. So you believe, and I understand you are not divulging your source. You believe, and I am interpreting, that Koberger was at Pullman, and upon going back home before he started school, he had locked into your daughter?
I don't know if he locked into the actual victims. I just know that there's signs that point to this individual had a lot of troubled past, and I believe they're going to show that this crime started back there. I think they're going to be able to prove that he thought and planned and strategized this murder and came out here, picked a community. I even think, this is my own personal feeling, I think he picked this area because of some previous killers in this area. And I think he came out here thinking that he was going to outdo them. He was going to be that type of killer. The Northwest has a history of some pretty prevalent.
I mean, what he's saying right now would fall under the basis of premeditation.
Mass murder, serial killers. And I think he came out here with an idea and a notion that he was going to show them how to do it.
I don't think there's any question, Mr. Gonsalves, that He was motivated. And of course, I'm just a trial lawyer and a crime victim. I'm not a shrink. I don't think there's any question that his attack, and of course, he's presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. His attack was motivated by his bizarre interest in criminals, the criminal mind, and criminology. It could have been a desire to know what it feels like to murder someone. I don't know the motivation, and frankly don't care about the motivation. I care only about motive as it relates to what a jury will want to hear. That's all I would care about, because to me it doesn't matter why he did it. It matters that he did it. Question to you, and I know you've been asked this before. How did the whole thing start for you? When, where, how did you learn something horrible had happened?
We were sitting at home as a family. Almost everybody was here. Olivia was just living down in Southern California, but everyone else was here. We were watching a football game, and we started. The phone rang, and we heard that something was going on. As a father of 5 kids, I can't tell you how many times we think something bad's happened, and we can't find one of the kids, and they're just hiding underneath the table or something. So you try to stay calm, and you try to tell yourself that this is just some rumor, something that's been blown out of proportion. Maybe there was some type of accident, but it's not like what has been described to you. So you just sit there and you start getting active. We all started grabbing computers, laptops, and started searching. And then we did see that, King Road, it's on King Road. So then we're thinking it's a bad fight, some kind of quarrel between a relationship of something. The things that you typically hear out here in Idaho, where, you're going to have those types of fights and those type of news stories. But you're never thinking it's going to be a homicide of 4 people. That just doesn't go there. And I don't think we even understood what happened for weeks. We were just in a daze, like what you're describing. Like I couldn't even hear music. Music stopped harmonizing. Things just don't make sense anymore. You're just broken, and you're just trying to figure out who's responsible and what you're going to do about it, and how you're going to get to hold them accountable and figure out the truth.
So, how are you going to listen to this man say what he just did and place so much judgment on him or his words or his actions or his family's actions based on what he just described? If you don't believe it and you think the man's a liar or he's full of crap or whatever you might think, that's your opinion. But in my opinion, listening to him describe this, how many of you have gone through the motions of losing someone and feeling just like what he's talking about? And if somebody was on the internet or somebody in your life was critiquing every move you made from the moment you heard about it on to whenever they caught whoever did it, on to almost 3 years later, would you be calm about it? Would you be able to, I know some people that have losses, tremendous losses, losing children, losing spouses, losing, individuals in their lives that were tragically taken from them. And it doesn't just go away, no matter what the internet wants you to believe. They want you to believe that this man was watching football and he said, hold on a second, this game's more important to me than finding out what's wrong with my daughter. No, I don't believe that that's what happened. I believe just what he just said. And his experience with his daughter, he knows his children. You don't know his children. He knows his children. So why would he react in a way that he doesn't know his own children would be doing or acting or even thinking? Because unlike some of you, it sounds like he doesn't instantly go to the worst case scenario. It sounds like he worked through the process. He doesn't instantly think there's something nefarious going on or there's some kind of conspiracy covering things up. No, he's able to work through the process of normal problem solving, it sounds like.
I really needed to know the truth. And since that day, we've been on a mission to make sure that we do everything to get to the bottom of this.
You know, Steve, I remember when I first learned on the phone from Keith's sister that he was dead. First of all, I didn't believe it. I thought there had been an accident of some sort. And if I could just get there really quickly, I could fix it. I could talk to the doctors. I could talk to the EMT somehow. I didn't even know where he was. And I remember not believing he was dead until I was reading upside down what my pastor was writing and said Bernstein Funeral Home. Then it started kind of dawning on me, and I assumed it had been an accident until he told me that Keith had been murdered, shot. When you first got that call, Mr. Gonsalves, what were you told that allowed you to think, well, there's been some misunderstanding, there's been an accident, I'm going to find out what's really happening? Like she's hiding under the table, like when she did when she was little. What were you told to make you think, okay, I can fix this. I'm going to find out what's happening?
You know, I had so many other children around me that were in so much pain that I really didn't have a lot of time to even think about myself. I grew up on a football team all the way up to college, and your coach is just pounding your head that it's not about you, it's about your team, it's about the people around you. So I kind of just turned myself off and then just focused on all these kids that were in pain. And then I said, I'm kind of old fashioned. So I just said, you know what, guys, we have to pick up the phone. We have to figure out what happened. You need to call all of her friends. And that's what they did. They got out on social media. They started finding everything. And that's when it became, it still wasn't real though. It wasn't real because I know my girls. I know Maddie. These are like some of the sweetest, most gentle souls that you've ever met. So gentle people don't get murdered. It's just not, it's not something that even makes sense to you. So I don't know when it actually became real. I know when you talk about going to the funeral, I remember thinking just how appalling the whole thing was and how gross it was and how I had to go into this place and I'm conducting business. That's where I switched. You know, I can't be a victim. I'm one of those guys that was like, I'm going to turn this on whoever did this, and I'm coming for them, and I'm going to get them, and we're going to bring wrath on this individual. And if that means I got to wake up at 4 a.m. and do interviews and talk to people and work with willing people, strangers, become friends, then that's what we did. You know, that's what we're doing right now. To this day, I'm still trying to connect dots with anyone who's listening, you know, and that includes the prosecution team, whoever wants to pick up the phone and reach out to us if they have something. We're still here. We're still collecting data.
When everything originally happened, the lack of confirmation, you know, at first it was rumors of murder, suicide, that was ruled out. Things like that, when you live in a small college town, it hurts to not know exactly. And even 48 hours later, when we were still on scene, students were feeling like they wanted more from local authorities and especially wanted more for the families of the victims.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.
Kohberger's trial officially changed venues to Ada County in hopes of a fair trial. What's next for the suspected Idaho student's killer?
Just around 3 a.m. In fact, it might have been even a little earlier, a man named Brian Christopher Kohberger was taken into custody in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That is nearly 3,000 miles away. In fact, much more than 2,500 miles away from the crime scene here in Moscow, Idaho.
That's right, arrested 3,000 miles away from the crime scene at King Road. The spot where Steve Gonsalves believes the murder plan was actually hatched. Who is Brian Kohberger? Well, we can come up with all the theories we want, but I want you to see Kohberger on video. Now, this is after a female traffic cop. I want to emphasize a female, a lady cop had pulled him over for a traffic violation. Watch this.
Yeah, I was just slightly into the crosswalk, so you know, yeah, where I'm from Pennsylvania, we actually don't have like crosswalks.
Oh,
so even if you're kind of slightly, yeah, there's a little bit more leeway as well. Like there are a few lines, like there's one white line and there's another one in front. Like there's like a certain margin from which you can actually kind of put your vehicle, place your vehicle.
Yeah. So I know laws vary state to state, but there is a law in Washington for blocking an intersection like that, proceeding through when you don't, when you're just stalling. I forget the actual verbiage. I can find it for you, but it's like stalling, blocking an intersection.
Yeah. I'm just curious about the law. I don't mean to.
Oh no, yeah, I can find it for you.
He seems normal. He's actually challenging the lady cop on her knowledge of the traffic law and actually has her look up the law. Listen.
Okay, so I found it. So I don't know what in Pennsylvania where you go to find laws, but in Washington it's called the Revised Code of Washington. So I'll try to turn my brightness up, but it's basically it's just called an RCW. So it's RCW 46.61.202. So it's no driver shall enter an intersection unless there is significant space on the other side of the intersection. To accommodate the vehicle he is operating without obstructing the passage of other vehicles, despite any traffic control signal indications.
So I want to ask any of you in chat, when you get pulled over by a police officer, and it's a general question, regardless of what it is for, when you get pulled over, do you go above and beyond, or do you just try to get through the situation as quickly as possible? Possibly they might give you a warning. Possibly they might give you a ticket. Either way, you just want to go on your way. Or are you a person that's going to question a police officer every step of the way? And I don't know if that's a new phenomenon. I don't know if that's something that had to do with control. I don't know if that had to do with asserting himself as being more knowledgeable than the police officer. I don't know, but I'm just asking you guys, how do you react when you get pulled over by a police officer? Are you calm, cool, and collective? Hey, Randy, how you doing, buddy? Or do you try to get out of the ticket as quickly as possible and move about your business? Because when I get pulled over, and I get pulled over a lot, I'm not ashamed to say it. I speed a lot. I have a heavy foot, okay? I'm cordial. Usually the police officer is telling me why he's pulling me over, so I have no question on that. And most of the time I know I'm in the wrong. I know that usually before they light me up, my words or verbiage is, oh shit, they got me. So It's never, I'm going to argue with the police officer, but I'm not speaking for everybody, okay? I'm just speaking on my own personal situation. So I'm asking you guys, do you try to make it through the stop without escalating the situation, or do you question the police officer every step of their job? You know?
And it goes on and on and on. Joining us tonight live is the dad of Kelly Gonsalves. Steve is with us, but to Dr. Bethany Marshall, joining us, renowned psychoanalyst out of Beverly Hills, author of Deal Breaker. You can see her now on Peacock. Dr. Bethany, we see not only that and the dismissive treatment, the challenging of the lady officer. His car is in the crosswalk while people are trying to cross. Okay, simple, easy. But then we fast forward to helping out, and I'm putting that in quotes, a female colleague with her home security video when he actually hooks it up so he can watch her at home. What? Changing clothes, going to the bathroom, who comes to her front door, sitting on the sofa, watching TV. I mean, it goes from one thing to the next regarding women.
Mhm.
We see him being asked to leave bars because he freaks women out, walking up to them saying, "Hey, what's your home address?" It's just on and on and on with him and women. I'm curious as to how that played in to him fixing on Kelly.
Nancy, for psychopaths, which he most certainly is, sex and violence are fused. They are considered one and the same. They go hand in hand. So with the female cop, we can see that he's lying prolifically. He says there are no crosswalks in his state. He's fascinated by the law because that is the thing that gives him proximity to thinking about crimes. A man who wants to commit murder will surround himself with criminality. But to answer your question, I've always felt that these girls are so beautiful and lovely that he wanted to eradicate something good.
You know, when we think about what Dr. Bethany just said, the aspect, Steve, which I know no one likes to think about, but proving this case will require this. The lying in wait aspect, there's no question about it. Yes, the state has said in open court there's no evidence of stalking, but we know his phone turned up along that strip behind the King Road address multiple times. We know he was watching the house and your daughter.
Yeah, for people who aren't familiar with this area, you don't just randomly take a right turn and find yourself in another state. You purposely have to drive and take like at one time we looked it up. It was like 15 different intersections and turns to get from Pullman to anywhere close to where these girls in Nathan were. So it's just not like a random, oh, I just took wrong turn here and I found myself in another state, in a town that I'm not familiar with. This person was very familiar with those areas, and there's not a lot of real reasons why he should be over in those areas that often.
You know, I did a upload earlier this morning, and of course, I got a little bit of positive reaction and a lot of, confusing reaction. But one of the interviews very early on, they were talking about Mr. Koberger being at the U of I student union and walking around campus a lot, more than the normal student. And this is just hearsay because I can't confirm or deny one way or the other, as most can't, that he was there more often than not, and people even thought that he was a student there. So if you're going, let's say it did happen. Let's say he was walking around campus. He, supposedly early on, he had made a statement that said the shopping is better in Moscow. Once again, I can't confirm or deny that was ever said. Um, so it just makes you wonder, like, would he have rather went to school in Moscow than WSU, or did he not enjoy Pullman as much as he enjoyed Moscow? I mean, it makes you wonder because, a college town is a college town. And not all of them are the same, obviously. But one thing you never really hear about in all this case, you never hear Brian was hanging out with so and so. Brian had 3 friends he ran with. He had 4 friends he ran with. He used to play basketball with 2 friends every Thursday night. Brian used to go fishing at the Palouse River or whatever. You didn't hear any of this stuff, or you haven't heard it. I haven't heard it. So that being said, if we're going to humanize this person, you have to ask yourself these questions. How come we haven't heard about the friends he's hung out with, the people he's either went to get a couple beers with, hung out at a sports bar, Well, I know about the Oriental chick, but I'm talking about guys. Because most guys have 2 or 3 friends that you do a lot of things with. You go to the sports bar, you try to pick up girls, you might drink a little bit, laugh and joke and cut up, whatever. How come we don't hear about any of that stuff? Because that is normal stuff. Wouldn't you believe? Wouldn't you believe that? Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have friends that I go and watch football with. I have a group of friends who I go to concerts with. I have friends and family that I go to sporting events with. So if somebody was looking into my life, they would be able to say these things about me to create a pattern of a living person. We haven't been given that. And my question is, what has kept people from humanizing this guy? Because if you want to believe he's innocent, then he should be humanized. He shouldn't have all these negative characteristics pointing out to him. But no, we don't hear any of that. We hear that, he was going to school, he graded harshly, he was this and that with females and da da. Okay, well, we want to humanize this man. What else did he do? Did he sit at home and watch Netflix every night? Did he burn stuff? Did he burn his food? Was he a good cook? Anything that would give you a humanizing factor. Because I can tell you, each one of you in this chat, if somebody were to ask questions about you, your profession or whatever you're doing to enhance your life would not be the only thing that they would talk about. If you have your parents are still alive, they would say, well, I'm proud of my son. He's this, he's that. He has some good friends. He had some crappy friends. He had no friends. I mean, all of this. So those are just questions, okay? Because enough, as I've said it, I'm not one way or the other. I'm objective when it comes to this case. So I leave you with those questions as we continue to watch this because that's what you came here for.
And I'm sure that is going to be dug into quite deeply once we get into trial time.
When I think about the number of times that we know of, I wonder how many times are there that we don't know of that he was in that area watching that house. I heard Dr. Bethany say something about him. It's hard for regular people like us to relate to what I'm about to say. A person that wants to eradicate, destroy something good. Steve, tell me about your daughter, my girl and boy. You know, I have twins, the same age, the same age. And I can't imagine why someone would want to hurt them. Tell me about Kelly.
Kaylee was a beautiful friend. She got along with everyone. We never even had to ever have any kind of conflict with the school or teacher or anything along those lines. So, and Maddie, I know Maddie exactly was the same type of person. So I feel like if you are a corrupted soul and you want to strike out at society, you're going to look for somebody who is going to matter, somebody that the world looks at and says, that's a beautiful person. That's who I want to be like. That's the pinnacle of achieving being a good human being. So I think that in the end,
I want to answer some questions before we go any further. Randy, you're right. He was a heroin addict early on in his lifestyle. That is a different life. I myself am a recovering drug addict, alcoholic. So I understand that lifestyle. But still, he built himself up to be a professional man. So with that profession, you would believe that he would have a very a lifestyle that he was making for himself. If you've ever moved to another town, one of the things that you would want to do is either get involved with the church or join a club at the college or, try to be connected to the singles group or, whatever, people that are doing the same thing as you. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to paint him anyway. I'm just saying if you're going to humanize this man, where's the social aspect of his life? Where's that social aspect? Because, and I know we've heard about him getting the three or the two girls' numbers at the pool party and hung out with that Oriental chick. But that's just, there's never been anything further to say that he followed up on those numbers or that Oriental chick is the token Oriental in Idaho. Obviously, she's the only one, and she happened to run across Brian. So what else did he do? Who else was Brian Koberger? What else did he do? What did he do in Pennsylvania once, did he meet up with friends once he got to town? Did he go and hang out with old friends? Because, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you grew up in a certain area all your life, you have, if people are still in the area with families or whatever, and you were good friends with them, you're going to go visit them when you're in town. Are you not? Are you not? I'm sure he was a heroin addict. I understand that. But even heroin addicts, once they clean up, they have friends, they have acquaintances, they have people that if they're trying to build a life for themselves. As people continue to throw the criminal justice major and PhD student and all this stuff, well, if you're throwing all this stuff, why aren't you making him more sociable? Why are you still not making him a normalized person? All you got for him is to be a criminal justice major and that he was a TA and that he graded hard and all this and that and the other. But you don't have any kind of humanizing factors about these people, about this man. How much time does it take to meet people in a new town? So you're telling me, I mean, I'm just asking these questions because, you know, I've moved all over the place and I'm not trying to compare my life to Brian, but I'm saying, you know what? You get tired of staying in your house, your apartment, whatever. You go to the gym, you meet people at the gym. There should be people that are character witnesses that are going to vouch for his character. We got plenty of people saying that he was creepy, he was weird, he stared right through you, all this stuff. But yet, I want you to think about the other side of the coin. I'm not being one dimensional here. I'm putting these things out there to make you think a little bit to say, okay, well, where are these people? Because, you don't want to be convicted of something and you don't have anybody in your corner but your family. You know, I'm just asking, okay? I'm just asking. Thank you so much for commenting, guys. I'm just asking. Let's get back to this.
Is what made them targets. It was their beauty, their smile, their laughter, the way they treated others. They played by the rules, doing things the way that you want your children and you raise your children to do. So in a way, he was striking out when it was a statement he was making when he picked them. I don't like him looking like he did a white collar crime. This isn't a white collar crime, people. This is people. You work your whole life to get them to go to college. Everybody has a dream of their children going to college. You trust the community, you trust the school, you send them off, and then they get killed while they're asleep that night
in their beds.
And we're going to treat this guy like he just traded insider trading of his own company stocks. It's not white collar. The person who did this crime looked at one of the victims and said, "I'm here to help you." If that's not malice, if that's the most type of evil that you could ever hear of, that shouldn't be rewarded with a suit
and a fresh haircut every time and a clean shaven.
That's wild. That's wild.
We've been told that he does have shackles around his knees or whatnot, but it's like, that's I don't want it to be hidden.
You are hearing Mr. and Mrs. Gonsalves, the parents of Katie Gonsalves, speaking out. To Steve Gonsalves joining us tonight. This is Kelly's father. What do you make of Kohberger's new look with his looks kind of metrosexual, and apparently there are female fans of his going crazy online? I mean, how bass-ackwards is that this guy would have fans demanding a hair salon, trim, new clothes every time he goes to court, not in a jury's presence? It's like he's getting everything he wants. Every demand is given to him at his whim.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we felt the need to get a lawyer, to make sure that everything was done by the book. And I questioned that everything was, 100% done on paper. Where were these rights coming from? Who was making the decisions to give him the ability to not have normal cuffs? I just don't think any father is going to be okay with their accused mass murderer being treated with any kind of preferential treatment whatsoever. I'm not asking for him to be in shackles and orange during his trial. Everybody deserves a fair trial, and a fair trial means you look presentable and you don't look like a criminal. But we're not even there yet. They're trying to delay everything, and nobody's arguing that they're not trying to, push things back and asking for more time and I need more years. And my mitigation, which for people who don't know, comes at the end of the trial. But my mitigation expert witness is I need to delay it. We're frustrated that he's being treated with these preferential things, and we can't find them on paper. Show me who made this decision. I can hold that person accountable. These are elected officials. I can hold people accountable. But if you don't put it on paper, it makes it very hard for me to understand who did it. So this new judge is doing it by the book. Everything I've seen, I like. And that's all I'm asking. We're not asking for him to come in there with the ball and chain and a mask over the top of him. We're just saying, why is this man being treated different than the criminal that comes in an hour after him or an hour before him? Why is he being treated one way as a mass murderer, and these other individuals are being treated in a different manner. That's what we're pointing out, and that's what we're using like forums like this to bring to people's attention, that some of these things are questionable, and we don't like them. We don't like them one bit.
Mr. Gonsalves, have you seen him in court?
Yes, I've definitely seen him in court multiple times. The very first chance I was given an opportunity to see him in person, I was there, and we're going to keep that same position, where when we can be there and it's a court hearing of any magnitude, of any real decision being making, we're going to be there.
Did he look at you?
No, I've heard that sometimes he has looked in that direction, but I've never seen him look at me.
I want to tell you what happened, Mr. Gonsalves. When I did go to my fiance's murder trial, which was a big blur, I thought my dad drove me, but my mom also drove me. I had to take off of work. And my dad at the time was working for the railroad his whole life. And my mom was a payroll clerk, and they would take off to drive me, oh gosh, over 2 hours one way to get there. And I never focused on the defendant. But at the end of my testimony, I came down off a very tall witness stand. It was equal to the judge. And I was walking out, and I looked down at the state's table, and I saw Keith's bloody clothes, which I had never seen until that moment. And then I kept walking, and I came to the defense table, and I looked at the lawyers first, because he was flanked by a bunch of lawyers. And I looked them in the eyes, and they looked down. And then I looked at the defendant, I guess for the first time, in the face, in the eyes. And he looked down, and none of them would look up at me standing at the table. And then I walked out. It was dead quiet in the courtroom, and all I could hear were my boots on that marble floor walking out. And I'm curious, what went through your mind when you first saw Brian Kohberger?
I don't know where I actually heard it, but I've always heard, and it's always stuck with me, that the eyes are the opening of a man's soul. So yes, I wanted to peer through this man's soul and understand the best that it's possible what kind of person this person is. So yeah, it's not easy, but I have an obligation, and I'm not thinking about myself. I'm thinking about what this person stepped into when he picked my daughter. And yeah, it's a very uncomfortable situation. We get people requesting all the time for us to sign off so they can get their hands on these photos, these autopsy photos, or these photos of the crime scene. It's disgusting, and we've made it known that.
Steve, I don't understand who is wanting you to sign off to release those photos. I mean,
I'm assuming they're from other countries.
I've never seen the crime scene photos in my fiance's case. I've never tried to see them, except I was so young when that happened. I had never even been in a courthouse. I didn't even know what a defendant and a plaintiff was. I knew nothing. I've never gone back to the scene where he was murdered, because for me, that just means reliving it. And I have children to raise now, and I don't want to be in that again, ever. But when you say people want you to release the crime scene photos of your daughter, what are they thinking? They're like vultures circling. I don't understand that. How dare they?
Yeah, it's clickbait. It's viewers. It's disgusting, and we don't want it. We want nothing to do with any of that disgusting behavior. And hopefully, it's not even possible. But as just a regular parent, you don't know. You don't know what's possible. I mean, so much of this is so new to us and it doesn't make sense. So if one day I woke up and there was pictures of our children on a newspaper with some blurred out stuff, I wouldn't even know what to say or what to do or what my rights would be. So yeah, there's definitely people out there right now who want to make money off of a crime, and they know that that's something that would bring people to them. And we're in an attention economy, and these people want that. They actually are hunting it down.
Suspected Idaho students killer Brian Koberger gets a win as Judge grants change of venue request.
The Gonsalves family has attended every hearing in Brian Koberger's prosecution, but is now forced to fundraise to afford relocating to Boise for the trial. The family of 10 released a statement expressing their extreme disappointment in the decision, criticizing the state's failure to cross-examine the defense's witnesses effectively. Now they are hoping to raise enough money to rent a home, feed themselves, and account.
To be fair, though, Randy, we create drama on these YouTube streets as well. Just a different type of drama. I mean, to be fair, if we're going to be fair, I've created drama. There's been other creators that have created drama. I mean, this whole case, it is bound to have some kind of drama. You know what I mean? And I understand her position. And I believe that a lot of people don't get certain people's perspectives. I'm not defending Nancy Grace, but I'm defending the law enforcement side of it. Is, you work in a particular field for a lot of years, and you see a lot of things, you hear a lot of things, so whenever you're speaking, you're not thinking about the emotional attachment to the innocent person waiting to go to trial. You're thinking about the crime. You're thinking about the victims. And one thing that I believe that has been overrated in these lives sometimes is it's the total opposite. People are focusing on the people involved in the case and not involved in the criminal side of it. So it's easier to see, well, that lady just awful. She just rude. She just this. She just that. But we also have to remember she was a prosecutor for a lot of years. So what kind of prosecutor was she? You know? Was she one of those that was out to get the death penalty? Was she out to get convictions? Or was she the total opposite? We don't know. But I can tell you that whenever I look at certain things, I don't look at it with my emotional attachment. Yes, this is sad, but I haven't cried one day about it. Not one day. You know what I'm saying? I haven't gotten into verbal altercations with people over it. Not where I'm cussing them out and calling them stupid or none of that. I mean, because exactly what that gonna do for the people that are trying to heal from this stuff. If you have a mob of people trying to argue their way into being right or wrong, it doesn't do anything. No, I'm not talking directly to you. You know what I mean? I'm speaking for myself. I always speak for myself because I'm not innocent of anything. I started this channel and you believe that the more excitement you bring to the table, the more people are going to enjoy it, and that's it's to be argued with on another time.
Count for 3 months of lost work.
Joining us tonight, Steve Gonsalves. This is Kelly's father. He's living in pure hell every day, waking up to relive the day before. This while he's got other children, his wife, of course, who is suffering as well. And now dealing with having to travel to Boise, hours away, miss work, set up housekeeping there, and drag himself to court every day. Mr. Gonsalves, again, please know for what solace it is to you that you and your family are the object of so many prayers. And I hate what you are about to go through. It's a horrible ordeal where you'll have to relive everything that happened from the first moment you picked that phone up and learned that something was wrong up to the moment in court. And you will be looking right at Brian Koberger the entire time, if he will even meet your gaze, which I doubt. Why? Why is this trial moved? I understand to protect it on appeal if we get a conviction. But my question to you, the hardship is going to bring upon you and your family. You've set up a GoFundMe. I want to talk about why it's important that you have the GoFundMe. Help Kelly Gonsalves's family attend trial. Explain the hardship it will bring on you and your family, Steve.
I'm literally running to like the equivalent of a train wreck that has my daughter in it and Maddie. I don't want to be in that courtroom. I don't want to see and hear what I'm going to have to hear, but my daughter deserves it. She's beautiful. She's everything to us, and I have to be there for her. And I'm going to be willing to hear and see things that I never ever thought I'd ever have to be facing, but I have to. Knowing what I know, I can't sit on the sideline. I mean, I have a lawyer who was a prosecutor who prosecuted murder cases, and he said nothing is more impactful to that jury than to see firsthand the damage that this person has done to the people that are important to them. So they're going to see.
Steve, you have to be there. I know in your own heart, you feel you have to be there. But as a felony prosecutor over a decade, you have to be there, and you have to have your wife there, and you have to have the entire family there, and they have to be on the very front row behind the prosecution. There's no way for this cup to be taken away from you. There's no way you can't show up. You understand that, right?
I do, and I don't want to put it on anyone else, but I hope all families find the strength to at least be there at certain key moments, because all these children, people need to understand how much pain and how beautiful these people were, and the only way that you can really show them that is through your face, through your emotions, through you being there, supporting them. And yes, it's ghoulish, and yes, it's gross, and we don't want to be there, but I feel I have to be there. My family will be there, but I know we're not the only victims, and I know that some people think that we're just trying to draw their attention to ours. It's not that. I just can't ask other people to walk my path. I can only walk mine. In my family, I can walk and coach and counsel them, but I hope everybody finds some strength to let that courtroom understand what the world is missing.
Mr. Gonsalves, thank you for being with us tonight. And I cannot imagine any father doing a better job for his child than you are doing tonight and every night for Kelly. And I'm just very proud that we got to speak with you. For those of you watching or listening now, please help Kelly Gonsalves's family attend her trial. It will be a long and arduous ordeal for them. They are leaving their home, they are leaving their jobs and doing without to be in court and fight for her. I want to thank Mr. Gonsalves for being with us. I also want to thank you for joining us here tonight and every night. Nancy Gray signing off. Keep the faith. Good night.
All right, all right. You know, like I said in the beginning, it doesn't really matter your like or dislike of the family or of Nancy Grace. I believe that individuals that are putting a lot of things in front of the actual problem, which was the murder of these four children, and finding out who did it, it's the most important thing. Are these people that are being spokespersons for these murdered children, are they doing the best they can with, or could they do better? Well, there's some people that say they can always do better. But it's easy to be on the sideline and be, you know, Monday morning quarterback. Monday morning quarterback. I just look at this case and I think to myself, man, I'd hate to be having to make any decision in this case, whether it be the families, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be the policemen guarding him, whether it be the people bringing him to the courtroom. I'd hate to be anywhere associated with any of this because it's such a high profile case that anything done wrong is going to be blown astronomically out of proportion. You know, I also believe that the individuals that have, you know, their own perception about the family or what they're about or their motives or whatever, some people have yet to lose anybody important in their life due to death, violent death at that. There's a difference from your grandmother being 89, 90 years old and she died of natural causes and having a 21-year-old daughter who had her whole life ahead of her and didn't even choose that death. She was taken out. And whatever your beliefs are on that, you're free to believe as you will. You know, but there's a difference in these semantics. So whenever you stop to think about everything involved, look at your children tonight. Look at your grandchildren. Look at your family members. If something as violent as this was to ever happen, you can say you would handle it a certain way. You could say that you're strong. You could say that you'd overcome. You could say all this and that. And you might be. Who am I to say you wouldn't? But chances are, right off the bat, if you have any kind of attachment to these people that is real love, your body is not built to handle that type of stress. You're going to shut down. You're going to, your body's going to take you to a place where you don't, you don't short circuit. You know what I mean? We all have opinions about the families. We all have opinions about the GoFundMe. We all have opinions about the PCA. We have opinions about the House. We have opinions about the water launcher. We have opinions about the whole case. By the way, I think I heard somebody say the trial is going to be August 11th of 2025. So if that's true, then we're getting the show on the road. And it's about time. It's about time. So, you know, if you haven't listened to me long enough, you should understand that I'm a person that believes in change and I'm a person that believes that people should be held accountable for their actions, no matter what it is, no matter what they do. Accountability is a must, you know? Accountability is a must. And if this man did it, then he should be held accountable just like any other man that commits a crime. Any other serial killer, whatever. If he didn't do it, then he deserved to be free. You know, that's the bottom line. And to have all these other side discussions and getting into arguments and all this other stuff over belief, for one, it's not going to set him free. For two, it might make you feel better about the case, but in reality, how are you going to handle it if it happens to you? Because I've always said that to my clients. I've always said, because I've had the worst of the worst in my classes across the desk from me. And, you know, they try your patience. And I've always told them, you're so convinced of what you would do because it hasn't happened to you yet. It's kind of like the pandemic stuff. People were downplaying it, minimizing it, and whatever your beliefs are on it, I don't want to get into that argument. But when people started dying in families and you were affected by it, all of a sudden you changed your opinion of it. Whether you wanted to or whether you didn't, you changed, because when the pain becomes greater than the excitement of the rebellion, then change happens. Until that occurs, it'll never change. There'll always be people lining up to defend things that they really don't believe in. They just want to get the excitement of getting people riled up or angry or frustrated or whatever. But when that pain becomes greater than that excitement, things always change in our lives. So always remember that. Always remember that. I gave an example to these kids today because they weren't getting it. And I said, so if I open this door and I ask one of you to stick your hand in the doorway and let me slam it so everybody else can laugh at you because they're getting excitement from it, would you let me do it? Not one of them said yes. One of them asked me if I was paying, they would do it. But still, the point of the matter is most of them are smart enough to understand that concept. Not everything has to be learned the hard way. And we give this individual the benefit of the doubt that he was a criminology major. He was studying for his PhD. He was doing good things in his life up until this moment. Whether he did it, whether he didn't, you know well enough, most of you have lived long enough that if he didn't do it and he's proven innocent, then he's going to be compensated monetarily. So you know that. It's a given. So to act like this man's going to, just all of a sudden be thrown to the wolves, no, his life will probably be better than that PhD that he was going for. You know what I'm saying? So you have to ask yourself these questions when it comes to this case. It doesn't change your ambition. It doesn't change your attachment to it, but it does change your own perspective of this person being a human. You know what I'm saying? That, like, of all the sides that I've heard, very seldom do we ever hear somebody humanizing Koberger. There's the fangirls, there's the one they call him Bri and all this other stuff. They've humanized him. But why haven't you? Why is all you stick with, or he's a criminology major, he used to do heroin, he went to rehab, he got a couple girls' numbers, he hung with an Asian chick. That was about it. He was a loner. Well, I can tell you, if that was his life, and they have the ability to prove that you being a loner is not defending enough for you to have an alibi against what they're accusing you of, it's going to be an uphill battle because there's nobody to defend you other than you. And I hope you understand that. And that's with anybody. You know, there's people that pass away every day and they're not found for days or weeks or whatever because they didn't have people in their lives that checked on them. And that's all I'm trying to say is where's the human part of this man? If you follow other creators, you might ask them, hey, do a little bit of looking into the humanity of this man because you believe he's innocent and there's nothing wrong with that. But where's the humanity of this man? You don't want people to paint him as a monster. You don't want people to paint him as a killer. You don't want people to label him. You don't want this, that, and the other. But what do you have that you can humanize him to make people not believe that he was so different that he could have possibly did this instead of he could have not? Because in reality, normal people kill people too. So I'm just saying, you know, that's usually the MO. They fit in. They're the chameleon. They're the one that, you know, there's no way Johnny could have done that. He's such a great guy. He would have never, you know, that kind of narrative. But this narrative right here is a hard one to overcome if you have nobody to be a character witness for you. Because if you ask his bosses, well, what kind of employee was he? Well, let's go back to the guy that he used to work for, cutting fish for when he was younger. What kind of employee was he? Well, he couldn't do the knife very well, so I had to let him go. Okay, but what kind of person was he? What kind of trait did he have? Well, he was weird. He was argumentative. He was this. He was that. He was this. He was that. He was this. I know he doesn't have to prove he's innocent. I get that. I get that. I'm not ignorant. I get that. I'm just bringing these out because if these questions are being asked, it does place reasonable doubt in the jury's mind. You're right. You're right. He doesn't have to prove it's innocent. But what I'm saying, if you believe he's innocent, how come you can't prove it? That's all I'm saying. Because I'm willing to listen to people tell me how human he is. You don't want him to be painted as a creeper or any of that other stuff, but since we talk about this so much, how come you can't humanize him? That's my point. What's kept you from humanizing him other than there's no way he could have done this because he's a criminal justice major or he was going towards his PhD? Well, guess what? In a couple, probably 6 months, I'll be done with my criminal justice degree, and you know, does that make me any more special than a man who doesn't have it? No. People put too much emphasis on titles, labels, and all this other stuff. All I'm asking is, what keeps people from humanizing him? If you believe in his innocence so much, what's kept you from making him a human being for yourself that you can't tell other people? Well, I believe he's innocent because he appears to be a good guy. I heard that he used to do this. The only thing we've heard good about Brian is he saved somebody's life one time when he was a security guard. And that's one thing that I've heard that he did well in his lifetime. Do y'all remember hearing that? Y'all remember hearing that? Well, that's what I'm saying, Randy, is how can you be so certain of his innocence if you don't know the man? But y'all remember hearing that. And that brings a little humanity to the individual. He saved a lady's life. Okay, well, he could potentially have empathy then. When all we've heard is the man had no empathy, he had depression, he has anxiety, he has all this other stuff, but he saved somebody's life once. That's all I'm trying to say. And I don't know if I'm getting my words across right, but that's all I'm really trying to say. And I hope you understand it. If not, I'll do better next time. But I got to get out of here, guys. Just got back from the gym a little while ago, probably an hour and 22 minutes ago. I hope you've enjoyed this. You don't have to like because you like the presentation. You don't have to like because I'm asking you to like. But at least give me a like for trying, you know? Give me a like for trying. Because a lot of people watch these, but I can't understand why they wouldn't even give me a like for attempting to do something. You get what I'm saying? But you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. So I have a question for all of you. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't, you might need a bigger shovel. Maestro, cue that music. One more thing before you guys run out of here. If you are praying people, let's pray for the individuals that could potentially be impacted by the hurricane. All those areas, we have creators that live in the path. We have individuals that are potentially going to lose a lot of things. If you're a praying person or if you want to send good vibes, you know, it's definitely needed because this hurricane is no joke. And let's keep those people in our thoughts, okay? Once again, thank you so much for being here, and y'all have a good night.